Robertson of Guy Robertson Horsemanship. He's here with us this evening to chat about the Mustang makeover, his clinics and lessons, and what he's been up to really and what the future holds. Guy, really lovely to see you and speak to you this evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's lovely to speak to you guys too. It's nice to speak to anyone outside the sort of family, really. You know.
Yeah, how's lockdown life been for you? Not too bad.
It's been good. Yeah, I mean, if you take out the sort of, you know, the people dying and the financial toll on everyone, I think there's been quite a lot that's been positive. You know, like we've spent more time together as a family. I've not been traveling as much. I've been able to ride and just concentrate on doing that, and you know that's been really, really good. You know, it's like go back to basics a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's made everyone really sort of grateful for what they have, especially if you have an equestrian and rural lifestyle anyway. For a lot of us, not a lot has changed, but it's kind of made you really appreciate what we do have. That outdoor space, which a lot of people obviously haven't had, but it's made a big difference, I think, for a lot of people's mental health as well.
Yeah, you feel for those people, like you say, that living in sort of high-rise tower blocks and, you know, and haven't got that space for their kids to be able to get outside and, you know, and have been sort of, you know, cooped up on board. Like I said, for us, it's been just an opportunity to really spend some time at home, you know, doing some projects at home, like we put our new indoor arena and things in, and we're just upgrading our facilities just so that, you know, when we're ready to open up for our clinics and so on, that you know, we were ready and you know, to be able to welcome people back.
And obviously it's given you a chance to go and collect your new Mustang for the Mustang makeover this year. So,
yeah, that was exciting going across there. They flew them into Belgium in the end. They were supposed to arrive a month earlier, but with obviously the restrictions on travel and freight travel and things, they were a month late getting here. So I drove over to Belgium, collected him and brought him back, and he's been fantastic actually. I mean, I did it last year, and the horse I got last year was very tricky. She's you know, really hard-headed about stuff, and it took a while to sort of get to grips with her. Really, she taught me a lot about, you know, horsemanship and, you know, how I was presenting myself and things, and it was a worthwhile experience, but it was pretty difficult. Whereas this one, he's been pretty straightforward. We've ridden him already, and he's, you know, he's really settled into sort of life as a domesticated horse, so that's been good. And you know, I really enjoy the project of it. It's been something you don't really get to do a lot here. Have something that's pretty raw. Most of the horses we get have obviously already had a fair bit of influence, whereas having something that's, you know, completely raw, it really challenges your program and sort of gives you an idea of where you're at, really, I think.
And also, you know, the Mustangs are such a foundation breed, aren't they? They're so wild in their genetics and their makeup that I've seen that some of them have real trouble being domesticated, like you say, because they have such that hardwired feral instinct, for want of a better description. And also, do you think it's a difference between because obviously you still have the Mustang that you had last year. Do you think it's a mare and gelding thing as well? Do you think maybe?
Yeah, I definitely I would agree with that. I mean, I can't remember exactly how it figured out with the placings, but I know that at least 3 or 4 of the top 5 last year were geldings. I think the mares definitely are a little tougher. I think geldings tend to be a little bit more biddable, generally speaking, across the board with horses. You know, like they tend to be just a little bit easier. They're not entire animals, which I think, you know, takes away that hormonal influence on their behavior. And she was just tough. I mean, I've got her now, and she's pretty good, but even still, she's she don't really like anyone else touching her. She, you know, like if I'm riding her, she won't tolerate anyone coming up to me whilst I'm riding her, though she'll sort of back away from them. But with me, you know, I can do pretty much anything with her. So she is just a strange one, really. Whereas this girl didn't, everyone touched her. My daughter, she's just 6-year-old, and he'll stand there all day and let her stroke his face and things. And, you know, that's just after a relatively short period of time. And they're all different, you know, they're all different. Every horse is different.
Yeah, of course. So how far along is he in your program of being started? Where is he at?
He's been here about 4 weeks, and we've got him pretty whole-broke now, and I've sat on him a couple of times and ridden him a little bit in our indoor round pen. And so far, so good. You know, like he's a little touchy about certain things, but he's really accepting of it. He's trying his best to sort of get along, and I haven't had any setbacks or anything like that. I think I learned a lot from last year about you know, how much pressure to put on them, when to back off, when to keep going. You know, and I learned from that. I had a bit more of a game plan going in this year, because it's different, obviously. You know, like if you're keeping the horse, it's a different situation than if you've got a set period of time and you've got to get that horse so far along in that set period of time. So it is a real skill, I think, to sort of make sure you can't just work them for that length of time. You've got to know when to load up with some work, when to back off, when to sort of try and peak them, if you see what I mean. And that's last year's experience has given me something for then, you know, something to help me this time rather. So yeah, we're doing all right. Like I said, I've ridden him, and I'm happy we've got that done now. And there's nothing I've shown him that he couldn't do. So you know, I'm pretty positive about how we'll get on.
So obviously, as you've briefly mentioned, the Mustang makeover is quite a unique experience for you. You know, like you say, it's not often an opportunity to work with such an untouched horse, and it's obviously taught you a lot. How is that transferred in you being a teacher of humans? You know, do you feel the experience is kind of giving you another level as a horseman to then translate onto your students?
To a degree, maybe. I think being able to apply some of those techniques, some of the experiences I had in terms of things like, you know, how much work to do, how much to push, you know, when to take the pressure off, you know, how to break things down a lot further. That's one thing I sort of got with Magic, who was my 2019 Mustang. She needed things breaking down for her a lot more, and then bridging those things together. And I think when you're teaching, that is is a real skill, is to be able to break the skill down, and you know, into its small details, find out which part of that the person has a problem with, and then put it all back together again. You know, just like a golf swing coach or something, looking at that swing, seeing where the issues are, correcting it in its different parts, and then putting it back together again. And certainly, you know, that's one thing I learned from her, and it's something that I try and take into my teaching. The other thing I think I learned from her as well is not to try and push things, to force things. You know, I had a sort of an idea of where I wanted to be or what I wanted to be doing, and I was trying to get her to that point rather than necessarily working from where she was at, taking what she was offering and then just trying to improve that. And that's something that I think I've been trying to encourage people to do, is almost to keep like a training diary. So every time you ride your horse or do some training, write down what you did, and then it helps you to see the progress. Because sometimes I think, you know, when you're trying to get somewhere, you can't really see the progress because your goal is maybe to ride the horse. And because you're not riding it, you feel like you're failing, except that there's probably loads of things that are improving every time you're around that horse that's leading you to that ultimate goal. And I think when I'm teaching people, I try and stress that, you know, like if you can just improve a little bit each day, if you can just, you know, be 5% better than you were yesterday, that you will eventually get to where you're trying to go. But if you try and do it all in one day, or you try and force it, then it's not going to happen. And that's another thing that I really like. It's something I knew, but it's something that was really sort of driven home to me, you know, throughout last year's competition, and something that I'm certainly holding in the forefront of my mind this year, in terms of just thinking, right, I'm just going to try and be a bit better than I was yesterday, and tomorrow be a bit better again, and then we'll get where we want to go, rather than trying to force the situation.
And I think as humans, we have real trouble sometimes actually focusing on good rides. It's easier to focus on a bad ride and kind of beat yourself up about it, rather than focusing on that, on like say doing this thing successfully, making a note of them, and then making a plan, and kind of really staying in the moment. We're kind of always, I find myself sometimes that I want to push myself to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, when actually I don't enjoy the success that I have in the moment in getting there. Because it's very much a marathon and not a sprint, teaching people and horses, isn't it, really?
I just don't think it's not a race at all, because there's no end. Do you see what I mean? We're all going for this finishing line. If you'd asked me 10 years ago if I'd be happy, you know, I'd be happy with where I was now 10 years ago, but I'm not happy today. Like, I want to be better still. So I just think there's no end to it. And as soon as you accept that and think, right, I'm just trying to get a little bit better every day, you know, you can't fail at that. I remember playing polocrosse, and I was lucky enough to represent the UK team, and we worked with sports psychologists, and you know, he sat us down and talked about, what are your goals, and I talked about winning. You know, winning was one of my goals. I wanted to win test matches, World Cups. That was one of my goals. And he said the problem with setting winning as a goal is that if you don't win, you fail. Whereas if you set performance as a goal, being the best you can be, being the best prepared you can be, being the best sort of practice as hard as you can practice, and give everything you've got, and just focus on just trying to improve your performance, then you'll never fail. Do you see what I mean? It's not a pass fail sort of deal. It's just, you're going to keep working at it, and you're going to keep improving, and that's the success.
Yeah, it's that incremental development, isn't it, of you as a person? And
and then that's what I try and talk to my students about, is just saying, look, just try and get a little bit better. Don't rate yourself against your friends. Don't rate yourself against, you know, your mentors or your idols. You know, just try and be better than you were yesterday, because this horsemanship is not a competition. You know, like even horse training competitions, you know, you're really relying on your horse to help you through. So if you can just be as good as you are, and then, you know, let the cards fall, then you're going to be a lot happier, I think, and a lot probably nicer to be around from the horse's point of view too, that you're working together towards a common end of just trying to be better than you were yesterday.
Definitely. And I think that's something. I've had Archie 3 years now, and I would say in the last year, like you say, letting the expectations that I'd put on myself and on him, letting them go, has meant a massive shift for us. And I feel he likes me a lot more, and it's a much more harmonious relationship. Not that it was ever disharmonious. It was just filled with tension sometimes that didn't need to be there. And that was very much transferred from me. So yeah, that's definitely a lesson that I've personally learned in the last year. And obviously trainers like yourself, because obviously I've had lessons with you, Guy, have helped me on that journey. But you've got to love the journey, haven't you, really, for horsemanship? Because it is that, as you say, never-ending story, really.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Black said to me once, he said, if you're ever getting in a problem, look where your ego is in the equation. And I think that's so true. Like, I mean, if you start trying to force stuff, if you start making it about you and what you want to do, and you're trying to show off to your friends, or you're trying to, you know, do something for social media, or you're trying to get somewhere because you're trying to win a buckle or whatever it might be, you know, you're going to have some problems. And if you can just check where your ego is in the equation, then I think you're going to have a lot more success. And you're certainly, like, from the horse's point of view, he's going to prefer being around you.
Yeah. So camps are starting to happen again. You've just finished your annual cow camp. Do you want to tell us a bit about how that went and what it was like to be around people again?
Yeah, I think it was fantastic. So we had cowboy camp, and we're lucky because my friend Tom, he's got a sort of an 800-acre farm in Lincoln, and they've got 400 head of cattle now. So we've got loads of cattle to work, and we had 2 small groups that we were able to sort of that are still able to come and to do it. We had to move the weekend so it sort of fit with the reopening of the campsites and with the government guidelines. And that was a sort of a, you know, like, because it was changing so much every week, it was hard to sort of keep up with, you know, are we allowed, aren't we allowed? And in the end, we got the advice that we could run it. And we had a fantastic time. I think people were just so happy to be away from home and doing something with their horses. So it was a great environment in that respect. And the facilities now that Tom's built there are just, you know, are tremendous. He's, you know, big outdoor arena. We've got paddocks to work the cattle out in the open. And it's just a really good opportunity for people to, you know, put their horses in a working situation, spend some time on top of them, moving them in and out of the arena, you know, doing a job with them. I try not to focus too much on, you know, like in a lot of our clinics, it's horsemanship clinics. We're talking about different exercises that we're doing. We're looking at the, you know, like training of the horse. Whereas this, I want it to be sort of a holistic sort of experience where you bring your horse and we just set up these jobs, whether it's sorting them out, whether it's moving them from pasture to pasture, whether it's, you know, trying to hold them on a back fence or something like that, rather running them through a crush. This is the job we're going to try and do. Now you need to figure out how you get that done with your horse. And, you know, people are struggling, obviously we give them tips and we help them, and, you know, we point out things that maybe if they could, you know, work that out with their horse, maybe if he stopped a little bit better, or maybe they had a bit of better control of his shoulders or whatever it might be, that they would find that easier. But it is really about that, giving them some tasks and some purpose, and allowing them to feel what it's like to ride a horse that, you know, is doing a job and is given a task to do, and allowing him to sort of complete it. And I always say there's nothing that I've ever done on a horse that I feel like they enjoy more than working cattle. Most of my horses, if you climbed off them, they'd still be out there in the arena chasing cows around. They just love doing it. And I would say 90% of the horses that come on our clinics, you know, within a day or two, they're all loving it. You know, their ears are pinned back. They're driving these cows around. The cow sets off. They want to, you know, follow it. It stops. They stop. They sort of enjoy the game, if you see what I mean. It's something I think that naturally they do with each other in the paddock. You know, we had a horse on the clinic. He was 26-year-old Lipizzaner, beautiful grey horse, and she'd done a lot of dressage. This horse, he'd never seen, you know, a cow in that situation, and he was in the arena, and she said he could be a bit sticky in the arena, but, you know, he saw those cows and his ears come up and his head comes up, and he gets this big sort of elevated trot, and he's, you know, he just had such a great time. And she had such a great time. She said, oh, the way he just felt like he just lit up underneath her in a confident way, you know, like he enjoyed what was happening. And, you know, it's my favorite clinic of the year to teach. And I always say it's a clinic I wish someone else would put something like this on, because if they did, I'd go and ride on it, because you know, the opportunities to do that in this country are pretty limited. You know, and so we roped a bit, and we had a few beers in the evenings and things, and it was just a really nice experience.
Amazing. I will get there one year. Next year I'll be there, because working cows is one of the things that I'm desperate to do, because, like you say, it gives that sense of purpose and success, you know, and the horse feels good about you working together, and it's such a practical, physical thing to do. You learn by default, really, don't you? And your partnership grows with your horse because you have to trust each other when you're doing things like that. I mean, you have to trust them when you get on them anyway, but yeah, I can see why it would be a favorite. So what other clinics have you got coming up this year? Have you sort of redone your schedule?
Yeah, we've redone it. I think we've got a camp coming up at the end of July, and then we've got our August camp at the end of August on the August bank holiday weekend. And then we've got various other sort of 1-day deals and 2-day deals that we're putting on. We sort of restructured it a little bit because we had to cancel a couple of the early ones. So we've added a few different new dates and things. And that's all on our website. I'm talking like I know what's going on. My wife does all the bookings. She sets the calendar. If I had to organize my own work, I'd do a lot less. So I think she sort of she organizes it, but it's all on our website, I'm sure. And you know, our clinics, I'm so overwhelmed with how they've sort of come along in the last. We've been doing it for 6 or 7 years now, and we're pretty lucky that when we put our dates up, we've got a good core group of people that keep coming back, and we seem to pick up some new people each year as well. You know, I really enjoy it. We've just had we do these training weeks as well. We just had some people leave that come Monday to Friday, and they come and stay for a week, and we do those for smaller groups. So people, if they've got something specific they want to work on, or we sometimes get some professionals that, you know, younger professionals that are just sort of starting out that want to come and get a little bit of help maybe for a week. And they might come along and bring a horse and just ride it with me. And that's the idea. It's just sort of a training experience rather than a clinic that we will work alongside me. I'll work the horses we've got in training, some of my own horses, and they'll work their own horses and have 4 hours a day in the saddle with me as well. So we've been doing all of those things. But yeah, I think all that's on the website, and Guy Robertson horsemanship.co.uk. But yeah, it's certainly something I enjoy. I enjoy the teaching. We've gone back to the horse training a little bit too. I had a bit of a break from that for a couple of years, and I've sort of really enjoyed. I really enjoy the teaching, but I quite enjoy the balance actually of having some time riding horses as well. And I think actually, you know, from a personal development point of view, you know, I miss not having, you know, 6 or 8 horses in training, that different horses coming in all the time, because it continually honing your skills. Then if you're just riding your own horses, you're riding the same sorts of horses and dealing with the same sorts of problems that you're creating. But having other people send horses and riding clients' horses has been really good too. So it's nice to have that balance between the clinics and the training horses.
Is having the break from training horses, did that sort of reinvigorate your desire to do it? You know, is it quite nice coming back to it after a break? And
yeah, I got a bit I guess a bit burnt out with it. I was riding a lot of horses. I had a couple of groups that came in. I had a couple of wrecks, and that sort of, you know, got hurt a couple of times, and which is, you know, that's what happens to horse trainers. Not many of us that walk in a straight line too good anymore, but you know, that happened, and I had my daughter and so on, and I just, you know, I just needed, and I'd been doing it for, you know, 15 years, probably doing 100 head a year, and it was a lot, and it was full on, and the clinics were sort of really taking off, and I was able to travel with that. I was going to Poland and Norway and traveling up and down the country, and it was good because my daughter hadn't started school, so she was traveling with us, and we sort of did it as a family. And I really enjoyed that. But I think having had that break and her starting school made me think, you know, I'd like to be a bit more based at home again. And we're doing a few less horses maybe than I did before. We're sort of trying to stick to 6 at a time, which is, you know, it gives me opportunity to ride my own horses, and it's you know, a bit easier on the body as well.
None of us are getting any younger, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not.
So will there be any, going back to the Mustangs, will there be any sort of open days or demos this year to kind of see what's going on before? Because you're back for the competition. It's October, isn't it? The competition.
Yeah, I think like 18th, 19th, or certainly around that weekend, whatever's closest to those dates. Yeah, so that's the plan. I mean, at the moment, I think I'm not sure that we are able to because of the sort of restrictions on gatherings and things. But as soon as we're able to gather, that we are wanting to do more open days. And we always did these things monthly called coffee mornings. Sounds a little bit like a sort of a women's institute sort of a deal, but we used to do these coffee mornings where we'd open up I think one Sunday a month. And people would come and we'd work a horse in training, and we were going to just kind of do it alongside of that. But like I said, at the moment, I think we're limited to sort of, get smaller groups of 6 at a time. So, which is sort of limiting what we're doing. But as soon as we are able to open up, we will. Absolutely.
And obviously we can keep an eye on. I'll pop a link for your website and also your social media pages, so that people can stay up to date with what you're doing. And obviously you're teaching again. Are lessons taking place just at your base, or are you traveling out to clients now with
a bit of both? Yeah. We're traveling locally mainly at the moment. And we're doing lessons at our base as well. So yeah, that's all sort of going ahead. It's a sort of a strange time, isn't it? Like I said, it's everything changing so quickly and frequently in terms of, what we're allowed to do and what people want to do. But I'm certainly available for teaching if people are wanting lessons. We're traveling around doing that again.
Excellent. Nice to be back out and doing, isn't it? And having a little bit of more of a normal existence. Getting out and with our horses. Thank you so much, Guy, for talking to us. We'd really like here at Horsemanship Journal to keep up with your Mustang makeover journey. So I'll have a chat with you about how we can do that, because our readers, I'm sure, are really interested, because they really loved the articles last year. But thank you so much, and stay safe and say hi to the family from us. Thanks. And
will do. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime. We'll have to do it again. And for